Nuremberg, the Nuremberg trials. Did you follow that from here in Washington? Was that a conversation?
I was in the Army at that time.
Right.
I was in the Army for about 4 years, a little less. At that time, when he was in Nuremberg, I was in Berlin with General Clay. General Clay wanted to know what was going on in Nuremberg. I went down to Nuremberg, visited the justice there. You have to remember the difficulty of the time. It was winter or fall. It was cold. It was wet. There wasn't adequate heat anywhere. You were chilled wherever you were. Food was inadequate and limited. I don't mean in quantity, but the kinds of stuff. For many people, an occasional gin or scotch wasn't a necessity. It was a miserable place. And what was happening there didn't make it easier. This was a trial of some horrible people, and the justice had the primary burden of not only bringing the issues before the world, but preserving the essential material for history, which was a vital problem and necessity of which he was deeply conscious. So that it was not an easy time for him. It was not just the work, it was the atmosphere. It was like having to live in a prison with prisoners. We were all closed up there. Former roommates of mine were there, as a couple of them as lawyers on his staff.
Who were they?
Harold Leventhal, my first law partner. I have a picture of him somewhere. There he is.
Oh, sure.
He later became a judge on the Court of Appeals here. And there were others, 2 or 3 of them, who had been on my staff at the Office of Price Administration. So that I knew a number of people there, and all of whom were working for the justice, who had and the one thing that was characteristic of them all is the high regard they had for him and his commitment, his effort, and accomplishment. So that this was a man that was viewed closely over a long period of time by friends. I thought that I knew him then.
While at Nuremberg, how long were you at Nuremberg?
Oh, I used to go up there every week. Fly down from Berlin to Nuremberg on a Thursday and come back on a Sunday.
And who would you meet while you were there? Or just were you observer?
I certainly met with, from time to time, with the justice, but not too much because he was busy. But I did meet with some of his assistants, including some of the people whom I knew, so that I got a fairly good picture for Clay of what was going on.
Did you get a sense that Clay was in turn reporting to President Truman Was that part of his role?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
I remember there were great differences within this country about what should happen to Germany. Whether it should be, Morgenthau took the view that a lot of its, or many of its factories should be taken away. It should be deindustrialized. Others took the view, which I shared, that it would be a catastrophe to deindustrialize the largest country in Europe, located in the central of Europe, in terms of what it would do to the continent. And so I remember Clay giving me a copy of Morgenthau's book that Morgenthau had sent to Clay, outlining what he thought should be done. But that was not the policy of the government.
Right.
The government simply wanted to restore the capacity of Germany to be a stable central government within the continent for the sake of its own people, as well as the sake of Europe and the rest of the world. So that he gave me the book that Morgenthau had sent him. I later gave it away to someone else.
So your paths would have crossed Tom Dodds over at...
I beg your pardon?
Your paths would have crossed Thomas Dodds over at Nuremberg?
No.
No?
No, I didn't see him then. I knew his father later when I came back to Washington.
I see.
When he was a senator in the Senate. But I never ran into him. As a person, I knew he was there.
Right.
But I didn't know him.
What was the impression back in the United States about the trial at that time? Was there interest in what was going on, or was the fact that it was after the opening statements and the original start of the trial, people lost interest?
Not a bit.
Yeah.
I can't speak for people, but I can talk of commitments to the press. The media picked it up, dealt with it, reported regularly.
Mm-hmm.
It was a matter of keen interest. And so I think nobody was astonished by what happened, and a great many people were following piece by piece, as they should have, what was going on
Sure.
there. That was an important event, and the justice played a central role in one of the, possibly the most important single event of the 20th century.